So when I think about early intervention, I think about legislation that centers families. I always wondered, how is it that we get to a place where we are talking about education for students, we're talking about practitioners, we're talking about policy and practice, but we're never talking about families. That's why even though my son is 12 years old, I am still wholly committed to early childhood and specifically early intervention. It is the first place that I found that families were centered in the philosophy of everyone's minds. The legislation itself talks about families, deeply embedded at every single level, whether it's how practitioners engage with families in their home, whether it's thinking about what are the outcomes for families, ensuring that they help their children learn and grow and know that they have rights. It's creating leadership opportunities for parents to develop them as leaders and ensure that they're partners at the table. So at every single level, we have this amazing piece of legislation that centers families, that recognizes that children occur within the context of their families, and it has made such an impact on our lives. My son Taj, born with Down syndrome, and he's 12, right? He's a middle schooler now. He is thriving. He's known everywhere, right? Plays basketball, has this big afro. Well, actually, he just shaved the sides, so it's curly down the middle because he likes the soccer. But if I think about how I envisioned his life when we got the diagnosis, and so nobody's around but you and the doctors, they have to give you this long laundry list of who that child is. And I barely even held him in my arms at that moment. And that list was everything that he could not do or was not going to do. Um, and I had barely even seen his face in the world for more than 24 hours. And then in my mind, they crafted an image of someone who could never. And then I held him, and I was like, well, I don't know who they're talking about, because this boy is amazing, and he's the sweetest thing I've ever known. I always tell people, if you think I'm nice, you could thank him, because I really wasn't as nice as I am now. I care about everybody now, almost too much, actually. But neither here nor there. So then we get referred to early intervention because he has a diagnosis with a high probability of developmental delay, woo woo, eligibility criteria. But then we receive services in our home. I don't have to go continuously. I had lots of other doctor's appointments. It was the one place where we received services in our home. They taught me how to move his legs, stretch his arms, how to play. We thought so many things had to happen differently for him because the language of disability, when you use the medical model, automatically assumes that everything is different, and not only different but less than. What we quickly learned is that he wasn't, and I'm not going to use that he was just like everybody else, because the truth is that he has 47 chromosomes, right? So like, he doesn't need to be like everybody else, but he did his thing his own way. And the lovely part about early intervention and that teaming approach is that you get to make these decisions together. So there were things I didn't know as a family, and then there were things that I could talk about in terms of his strength that was as valued as the other ways that they thought about, so what else is next? Why is it important to have trunk control and all of this good stuff? These are the things that are essentially what changed our lives. More important than the therapist, because therapists come and go. What they allow me to think about is how he could be in the world. That this idea of modifications, of support, of the family being critical to, of a family intact being critical to his best life, was at the core of everything that we needed to think about. And so learning advocacy in early intervention, learning partnering in early intervention, having something that centers the family in this way, continued through every other element that we went through. Preschool, it changed my decision and the language of how I talked about inclusion, and my expectations for what should be happening. That was all born out of our experience in early intervention. And so I have to be thankful to the families who continue to advocate for support for families in the original law, the folks who are practitioners who continue to talk about families, whether we're at the table or not, who continue to have a philosophy of family-centered approaches and best practices for children with disabilities and their families. So I just want to say happy birthday. Woo! And keep on keeping on. We've come a long way, baby. We got a long way to go. Thank you.